Running through here, we've got understatement due to an unreasonable position. What's going to happen? What are the penalties? Now, these are going to be penalties you should memorize. The IRS can impose penalties on tax preparers who take unreasonable positions that result in an understatement of tax liability. So, what is the penalty for ordinary negligence? And then we've got a penalty for willful or reckless conduct. You see this is a little more serious. So if you just have ordinary negligence, you didn't do your due diligence, you didn't do any research. If a tax preparer's unreasonable position is due to ordinary negligence, which is just lack of due care, or failure to make a reasonable attempt to comply with the tax laws, right? You just kind of threw a dart at the board and saw what happened. The penalty is going to be either the greater of $1,000 or 50% of the income that the preparer received for preparing the return. And the penalty for willful or reckless conduct, if a tax preparer's unreasonable position is due to willful or reckless conduct, which is intentionally disregarding. So this is more kind of getting towards fraud. Likely wouldn't be fraud yet, but slowly moving its way towards fraud. Intentional disregard, showing a reckless disregard for the rules. The penalty is going to be the greater of $5,000 or 75% of the income that the preparer received for preparing the return. One confusing thing is remembering the penalties for taxpayers versus tax preparers. Obviously, that's going to be a little confusing because you're going to say, hey, you got two separate listings of penalties you have to know and rules and all of that. Yes, there's a lot to memorize here. And could you see a random multiple choice question on these penalties and have to calculate it? Totally. Could you see a sim where you have to calculate a bunch of penalties? Totally. These are going to be less important than, let's say, S Corp, partnership, and C Corp rules. But in a perfect world, you'd have these memorized as well. Here we've got an example. First, we're going to use the ordinary negligence. We've got a tax preparer. They received $2,500 for preparing a tax return. And the IRS determines that the tax preparer's unreasonable position is due to ordinary negligence, not the more serious willful or reckless conduct. In order to calculate the penalty, we want to compare $1,000 to 50% of the income that the preparer received for preparing the return. Simple math says that 50% of what you received of $2,500 is $1,250, and the penalty is going to be the greater of $1,000 or that amount. Such, in this case, the penalty would be $1,250. Very similarly, here we've got the penalty for willful or reckless conduct. Now assume the tax preparer received $4,000 for preparing a return, and the IRS determines that the tax preparer's unreasonable position is due to willful or reckless conduct. You said just take all the expenses, go for it, have a fun time. To calculate the penalty, we want to compare $5,000 to 75% of the income the preparer received for preparing the return. 75% of $4,000 will be $3,000. Which is the greater here? Well, the greater of $5,000 or $3,000. We are going to see that the greater would be the $5,000. As such, we are going to have to pay that penalty. Hey there! Are you ready to not only pass your CPA exams, but truly understand and enjoy the material while studying? I know it seems impossible, right? Especially to enjoy the material? We'll do it together. Tap into the power of CPA.examprep.ai, where we've got personalized quizzes, multiple choice questions, memorization guides, flashcards, simulations, all tailored to your learning. Our adaptive study planning puts you on the fastest path to success and lifts you back up if you fall behind. Avoid wasting your precious time and money attempting an exam with a low chance of passing, because who wants that? We want to get you through this process as quick as possible. Our exam readiness prediction lets you walk in with confidence, knowing that you're prepared for success on exam day. Thankfully, there's no payment method needed to get started, so why don't you come join us? Visit cpa.examprep.ai and let's achieve your exam success together.